So, welcome back to another Funconventional, and this time we're going to be looking at Copperajah, Pokemon that got access to one of the coolest new GMax moves, I would say, even though it's probably more of a singles move rather than a doubles one. But it's still pretty cool. Like, Steel Stealth Rocks is very cool. Probably not better than the defense boost, because defense boosts from the Steel Spikes are very, very strong. And especially with Copperajah, its defenses are much lower than you would expect. Like, you'd probably equivocate it to Rhyperior, like you would think it would be as bulky as that, but no, it's got good HP, but really, really poor defenses. So, it's actually a lot less bulky than you would expect, but still very offensive. But yeah, I'm going to be using the GMax version of Copperajah because why not? And I've got a strategy that I want to try off in the Believe in Boyt that's going to be coming up. And this is going to be the set that I'm going to be using. Like I said, because its defenses aren't actually that great, I'm going to be using the Assault Vest just to patch up that special defense and then invest quite heavily into defense as well to cover for that as well. The defense allows it to take a Fireball when it's in its Gigantamax form, because you don't get those defense boosts when going for the Steel Surge instead. And I've also opted for Iron Head over Heavy Slam. Now, you could have Heavy Metal. You could entirely viably have Heavy Metal, Heavy Slam, because that would do a lot of damage. Most of the time, it would be 120 power, and that would be stronger than the Sheer Force Iron Head. Because the Sheer Force Iron Head, I believe, is 104 base power, so it's significantly weaker, but you can't Heavy Slam Dynamax Pokemon, and that could be very detrimental. So I've just gone with the consistency of Iron Head, because in general you want to be Gigantamaxing a lot, like most of the time anyway, so it won't make a difference too much between Heavy Slam and Iron Head. It would make a difference between Iron Head and Steel Roller. Steel Roller would be a little bit better in the Gigantamax form because it will be that slight bit stronger, but then it becomes incredibly risky as well, like Heavy Slam, when you're out of your Gigantamax form, because you'd have to have terrain on the field for it to be useful, and then once that terrain's gone, you can't use Steel Roller again. So I've just opted for the consistency of Iron Head, because the team I'm using, there are a couple of other Pokemon that could go for Dynamax as well. So I want this to still be viable, even if I don't have Gigantamax available. And the coverage I went for, I think, is the most reasonable coverage. If you have Heavy Metal, you probably want Heat Crash, but because I'm Sheer Force, I've gone with these two. Unfortunately, Power Whip and High Horsepower don't get Sheer Force boosters. There's a very loud motorbike that you can probably hear going past. But Playrough does get a Sheer Force boost. A lot of people forget that Playrough actually has a secondary effect because it's so unlikely. Only that 10% chance to drop attack. But yeah, it will get Sheer Force boosted, and that is another reason why I had the Sheer Force over the Heavy Metal, Heavy Slam. And yeah, I'm hoping this Copperajah will put in work. Steel Surge is something that I'm looking forward to use, and could rack up significant damage, but if you wanted to be a little bit stronger, you can go with the Life Orb variant, because you've got that combination of Sheer Force and Life Orb, but then it will only happen with the Iron Head as well. You'll still take the Life Orb recoil when you go for Power Whip and High Horsepower and your Gigantamax moves as well. But then, because I've gone for Life Orb, because you're going to be taking recoil, didn't think it was that necessary to survive the Fireball coming out from Cinderace, because you're going to be putting yourself in range with the Life Orb chip anyway when you're going in your Gigantamax form. Only Iron Heads would not take that recoil, and then you're definitely KO'd to the Fireball. So I just basically split between the defenses. Because the HP is so high, it's a bit more optimal to go with the defenses. So I basically just split so you have equal defenses, but one more in special defense because of Porygon 2. And this would do a lot of damage with the Life Orb. It's got 130 base attack, and that's a lot. That is definitely a lot. So that is an entirely viable set as well, but I'm just going to be going with the Assault Vest because the team I built had the Life Orb taken, but this will be entirely viable as well. And the main thing I would say to pair with the GMax Copperajah would be Yawn. Because we saw that weird combination of Snorlax and Ferrothorn pop up. I can't remember which series it popped up, but it was a strange one, because you would have Stealth Rocks on the Ferrothorn and Yawn on the Snorlax, and then you set up Stealth Rocks, and then you pin them with Yawn, and then they have to switch around if they don't want to stay asleep, but then they take the Hazard's recoil. Is it recoil? I don't think it would be recoil, but they take Hazard's damage, because they want to stop themselves from going to sleep. I'm going to go with the same logic here with Copperajah, because Steel Surge is still a hazard, just a Steel type 1. You can pin your opponents with Yawn and they have to accept that they're going to take the Steel Surge damage or switch out, and it can really rack up if they never want to go to sleep. So I'm going to be trying to pull off Steel Surge. I've also got Stealth Rocks on my team that I'm going to be using as well. So really going to try and hazard stack in VGC, which is probably not the play because hazards haven't really come into VGC at all. That for Hawthorn is the last hazards that we've seen for a long time. I tried to make Clefairy work with Stealth Rocks back in 2018. I managed to get top 4 in one of the Trainer Tower Opens with a Stealth Rock Clefairy, which I thought was quite funny. I only clicked it once ever, so it didn't matter. But yeah, hazards in VGC, not something you see too often. It is reasonably viable with Copperajah. You probably still want to be going for the defense boost. That is probably the way to go with Copperajah, but I'm going to be using the GMax one just because I haven't used Copperajah before and I want to have some fun with it, which hopefully I'll be able to pull off in the coming Believe in Boyt. So next 3 Pokemon that will be considered. Shiinotic lost 2 in a row, so it's not going to be coming back into the poll. So it's going to be Charjabug, Centiskorch, and Poliwrath as the 3 Pokemon that you'll vote on for the next Funconventional Pokemon. So please go into the comments, like the comment that's corresponding to the Pokemon that you want to see put into the next Funconventional, and also put your suggestions in the comments as well for the Pokemon you want to be in the next poll for the Funconventional. Now that we've got the Isle of Armor and the Series 5, there's a lot more Pokemon that can be featured on Funconventional now, so a lot more options. Please put into the comments the Pokemon that you want to be featured, and also go and like the comments, not just the ones in the poll, the comments of the Pokemon that you want to be put into the next poll as well, because that's the best way for me to determine which Pokemon go into the poll. So that's going to be Copperajah. I'm hoping it's going to be a lot of fun this week. Thanks for watching.